Okay, we're going to continue on working on this RZR XP 1000, Polaris RZR XP 1000, and we talked about these rock kickers is what they call these. And the one on the other side was off. You can see it sitting up on top of my garbage can here. But you can see they're in terrible shape. They're all rusted and scratched. And I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to see this one was off. I don't know how it came off. I think it had gotten loose and one of the bolts had rattled out or something and lost. So rather than let it rattle around, my son took it off. So I took one of the bolts out of this side, and we can't find any of the bolts now. So I took a bolt out of this side, went and found some replacements, went to the hardware store. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a wire brush, and I'm going to clean them up with a wire brush and spray paint them and put them back on. So you can see how this one laid out there in the, I didn't even realize it was off. He left it laying out there in the yard, and you can see where it was laid down on in the mud, with mud all over it and dirt, and it's just rusted. It's already rusted anyway. They're old. They were put on there when we bought this. This is a 2016 model. So anyway, that's going to be what we're going to do today. I'm going to sand these down and spray paint them and put them back on there. I'm going to slowly fix this thing back up, get it back in good shape. It runs good and drives good. I fixed the flat already. I fixed the, put a new battery in it, put a battery disconnect on it so the battery doesn't run down anymore. And that was the two main things I wanted to do. Now I'm going to do this. I'm also, at some point, I'm going to take I think it's got a couple of bad bearings in them. I'm going to replace all the bearings. And I've ordered a kit a service kit to change the oil, change the air filter, put new plugs in it and all that, but it hadn't come yet. I bought that off Amazon. So anyway, but let's get to work on these rock kickers and get them back in good shape.
Okay, I'm going to be narrating this part as we go because I lost audio. I think my wireless microphone had died and I didn't realize it, so we don't have any audio here. So I'll just narrate this as I go. You probably won't be able to tell much difference in it, but basically I'm trying to get my socket. This thing takes I think it's a T6 star socket, and it's really difficult to get it in there. So I ended up having to use I had to kind of finagle my way to get it in there, to get my tool in there. So it was not easy. Let's just say that. So two of them are not that hard to get to. One of them was really difficult to get to. The one on the very front, because it's right behind the actual. There's just no way to get straight in there on any of them really. But you can see I put a little. I forget what you call that little angle socket, just so it puts an angle on it. It's still not easy to do because you have to almost use an impact wrench to get it started, and even then you have to almost use it all the way out. I think I just needed it to loosen it. I may have put a socket on there. We'll see as we get up here how I did it, but getting it loose was the hard part because they were kind of rusted in there. I'd sprayed them the day before with some penetrating, I think some WD-40 or some kind of penetrating oil, and that probably helped a little bit. But getting them off was not really the hard problem. You'll see as we get to the end of this video, when I go to put the other side back on, it was obvious why that rock kicker was off, or rock slider, whichever you call it. We've always called them rock kickers or rock sliders. And the reason that other one was off was because the bolt holes were stripped out. So I don't know if they hit my son or somebody hit something and bent them and stripped them out, or if they just stripped them out over time. I'm not really sure what happened, But needless to say, um, they were stripped out. I had to retap though. I had to get a bigger bolt and retap those. So you'll see that when we get to it. But getting these things off here was the easier part, honestly. Getting them back on was a little more work. So I'll probably fast forward through some of this. You probably don't want to watch me sitting there trying to get a bolt out. It doesn't look like I got a very good angle on my camera either. So just bear with me on this one. But we'll probably fast forward through some of it. Okay, you can see my faithful dog in the background. That's Aspen. She is an 8-year-old British Labrador Retriever. People always think she's real young because she's smaller, but she's a female to begin with, and then British Labs are a lot smaller than American Labs, so she's not a run or anything like that. She's just a female, and she is a British Lab, which they're much smaller. So,
Okay, I got it off there. Wasn't easy. That last bolt, there's not much room for where the bolt goes. I don't know if you can see it from up there, but you can see the bolt goes right through here, and there's not any room to get anything on it because this is in the way. So I don't know if that's bent, maybe. I don't think so. I think that's just the way it's made. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to sand this down and we'll spray paint it and go from there. Okay, we're going to sand on this some. I got 24 wire brushes, and of course I can't find any of them except for this one. So we'll start with this one. It'd be a lot better if I had a little bigger brush, but this is all I got. So
this part was not really that hard to do. If I'd had a larger wire brush, it probably would have been easier and quicker. That slowed me down a little bit, but this was not hard to do at all. It just takes a little time. But that was the key to it, really, was just kind of getting all the rust taken off and cleaned up, and where you could get a good coat of paint on it. So, but yeah, it's not very difficult. And I've got every size wire brush you can known to man that would go in that drill, but I couldn't find them. So my son uses stuff and doesn't put it up, and my workers come in from time to time, and I can't remember using these in a while. So probably just hadn't found them yet and put them in the right place where I can find them going forward. But anyway, it took a few minutes, and then I blew them off here, blew all the dust and rust off.
okay, we're going to put a little paint on it. I got a dozen cans of this gloss black enamel. I think that'll work. I got it laying around, it's free. So I'm going to use it up. We'll see how that looks. Again, I'm not trying to make it look brand new. I'm just trying to clean it up and protect it. This supposedly has, thought it had the, may have some more over here. Thought it already had the primer in it. I think I got a bunch of more cans of it over here somewhere in the box. I can't remember if I moved them or not. Let's try this one. Oh yeah. Much better. I think that other can was just almost empty. And I kind of like this. I'll show you what this is here in a minute. You've probably seen this, it's called a can gun. It snaps on there and it just makes it easy to spray. Trying to get under it a little bit, but we'll flip it over after that dries real good. All right, let me show you what this is. It works pretty good. It's called a, make sure you can see that. Thank goodness for that thing turning off. But there it is. It's called Can Gun 1. I think I got it on Amazon. $10 for a couple of them. But yeah, that works really well. You saw how easy that was to do. Doesn't get all over your fingers and doesn't make your fingers sore. I think that's well worth $10. And I probably should have painted that somewhere else while I'm sanding on this other one. Guess I can try to pull it. I just don't want it to fall over and mess my paint up what little bit I got on there. But yeah, it already looks 100 times better, and that'll keep it from rusting. And how long that'll stay on there, I don't know, but that's better than it was. It's clean, there's no more rust on it, and it's black again. All right, I was able to drag that other one down there, get it out of the way where we don't get a bunch of dust and stuff on it. I just pulled on the end of the old blanket and it drug right down there. So now we're going to work on this one. You see this one's not near as bad. It was still on the machine, so it didn't lay out there in the mud and the rain for 6 months. You can see the bottom how bad they are though, where they haven't gotten clean. That's where they get the most of the brunt of the damage, where it's rocks and tree stumps and everything else you're going over when you're out riding these things. Let me give you a quick look at this one. That's just one coat of paint on the top of it. It's not perfect, but it looks 100 times better than it did. I'm not trying to make it look professional. I just want to get the rust off and cleaned up and put back on, and just, you know, just enough paint on it to protect it so it doesn't rust out. But there's this one. We'll get to work on this, and I'm not going to subject you to watching me sand this off. You saw me do it on the first one, and we'll sand this one and do the same thing with it, and then I'll come back and show you what we got going on. Okay, there's this one. You see I got it cleaned up. Pretty good. Blown off, blew it off. Go back and look at this one. You can see it looks a lot better than it did. Now, it's not perfect. If you want to do this perfect, you'd probably sand it down smooth, get some good primer, fill in all the scratches and stuff, and prime it real good, and then paint it with a good paint, and maybe even I think I've got some clear coat in there. I might get like that's a little shinier than I like. I might get some matte clear coat. I think I've got some in there, and maybe put a coat of that on it afterwards just to help protect it a little more. But yeah, this is just, I mean, I don't want to spend any money on it. I'm not trying to make it look brand new, but if you really want to do this right, you'd probably get some sandpaper on it too. Sand it down real good, like I said, and get some good primer. But fill in all those little imperfections and scratches and things like that. But I'm not worried about all that. I'm just trying to get a coat of paint on it, clean it up and get a coat of paint on it, and where it doesn't deteriorate. So anyway, there's a little update. I'm gonna get this one over there and spread that blanket out a little bit and get a coat of paint on it. And I'll probably paint this over 2 or 3 days, so you won't know the difference, but I'm probably going, because I'll need to flip it over and I'll let it dry. I need to let it dry real good before I flip it over and try to paint the other side. And I'll probably have to get in some little nooks and crannies on it, so it'll probably take me several days to paint it. But there's just a good look at it before I move the other one over here and start painting on it. Okay, another little update. I got 2 coats on this one, closest to me, and then 1 coat on this one over here. Now you can see this one was the one that laid out in the weather, down in the dirt, and was real rusty. And you can see how much better this one looks. So, I mean, they look night and day different. I mean, this one's so smooth and nice finish, and that one over there. I might hit it with a little sandpaper when I let that dry, and hit it with a little sandpaper. I'm thinking about it just to mean, like I said, this is not really for looks. This is just to protect them, let them last for a few more years before they rust out. I made a mistake, and if you do these or you have these or anything similar to it, there's no caps in these ends here. And I guess it was caked with dried dirt. And I already had this one over here with a coat of paint on it. Luckily it was dry, and because it blew dust all over it. And when I came to lay this one down and set it down, I guess from sanding on it and banging it around, all that dust and mud had get loosened up and it shot out and it landed right here, and the dust blew over onto this one. But luckily it was already dry. The coat was already dry and it didn't stick to it, so it didn't really do any damage. But if it had been wet, it probably would have made a mess. I'd have dirt all in my new paint. So yeah, that's just one coat. I'll let that dry. If it dries in the next 15 or 20 minutes, because it dried quicker than I thought it would, I might flip it over and go ahead and get a coat on the backside. So I've got 2 coats on this one, and I put a real thick coat on that one, and of course I painted all the screws. They're stuck in the top of that box. You probably can't see them for the black paint, but there's screws there. So yeah, pretty simple little job. The hardest part was just taking that wire brush and sanding, grinding all that rust and mud and dirt and getting it all out of the crevices. That was the hardest part. It didn't take but a few minutes to paint it. Probably less than a minute to put a coat of paint on it. And I do highly recommend that handle. That thing sprays. It makes it spray so much smoother and easier. You can lay your paint down a lot better with this thing. Again, it's called a Can Gun 1. But it works really well. No getting all over your fingers, no getting your finger in the way, it gives it a good solid push, so you're getting a solid stream. You can handle it more like a regular spray gun, paint gun. So anyway, there it is. I'll update you some more probably when we finish it up. You've kind of seen the steps of what I did to it. And when we get them on there, maybe I'll update it again as I paint, put another coat, but probably wait till I get them installed and I'll show you the final product. You've seen the steps to it. Now it's just a matter of putting a few coats of paint on it. And again, I might take some sandpaper to that, because this one looks so, get out here close, get it from this angle, you can see how smooth that one looks. And then I don't know if it's picking it up in the camera, but you can see how rough that one looks. And it's just because it was pitted and had more rust on it, and when I ground the rust off, it left pitted spots on it. So you could take some sandpaper and probably sand that up real good, or maybe I could get sand it and put some more primer on there and kind of fill that in some, and it might look better. But again, I'm not wanting to spend any money or a lot of time on this. I've probably got 2 hours in what I've done here, if that much. Again, the hardest part is just prepping it, getting it cleaned up. Painting it's no problem. It literally took 30 seconds to put a coat of paint on what you can see there. So anyway, all right, I'll update you later when I get them back on there and get them set up.
Okay, here I'm just prepping this before I install it, just cleaning it up some.
I'm just using a little, not a screwdriver, just a little pointed, I don't know what you'd call this thing. It's just got a point on it. Just makes it easy to stick it in there and dig that dirt out. Okay, it's amazing how much stuff I sucked out of there. You would think it was just a little bit of stuff, but it was quite a large amount of stuff in there. Wasn't just a little bit. Windex or something, some cleaning stuff. Like to clean all that up real good. Go ahead and spray these bolt holes a little bit. Just let those be. At least let those be soaking and cleaning up.
Here I'm just going to take some WD, not WD-40, I already sprayed that in the hole, some WD-40 just to loosen those screw holes, so they kind of saturated a little bit. But here I'm just taking some clean, I think, Windex or something, and spraying it and just trying to clean behind there. Because once you put those rock kickers back on, you can't get behind there again. So that's all I'm doing here, just trying to clean it up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and try to install these. This one was not too hard. It's the other side. It turns out the reason the other side, the driver's side, was off, you can still see dirt falling out of the end of those tubes. I don't know if you noticed that, but you can back it up and look if you see, but there's still dirt falling out of the end of those tubes. They ought to have some kind of caps on them, and they may have when they originally were bought. I can't remember, but they certainly don't have caps on them now, and they're full of mud and dirt and sand and anything else that can get down in there. So if you could rig something up to cover those ends, it would probably be beneficial and help them last longer, because it would keep water and mud out of there. Maybe if it clogs up with mud at the end, it's better, because then that'll keep the water from flowing down in there and sitting in it and rusting it out, because water could technically come in down up here at this top part. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this side installed, and then we'll go to the other side. And I had a little problem on the other side that I'll describe when we get to it. So.
Okay, one small lesson learned there. When you put this on, don't use a torque wrench to tighten it up. That would be a mistake. That would be a mistake. Because it was too strong.
That torque wrench was just too strong, and it just twisted that head off in just a split. Before I could even realize what was going on, it twisted it right off. Those bolts are not the best. I went and got some new bolts and redid it, and I'm going to speed through this side. It's just the exact same as the other side, so I'm not going to subject you to watching me sit here and screw these in. But I did run into a problem on this side, and that problem was that those bolt holes were stripped out, and that's why I guess my son didn't tighten them up and put this thing back on. There was only one bolt that was holding it, and the others were completely stripped out, and so I'm assuming that's why he took them off and didn't put them back on. It kind of makes sense now. He wouldn't know how to fix that. So what I did was I retapped. I just got I think they were M6. They were M6 metric 1.0 threads, and I just got an M7 and retapped it and went and got some M7 bolts that were similar, except these had bolt heads, which I like those better than the other heads, just a regular bolt head. And I retapped it with that M6 1.0 and put them in there, and it holds good, and that solved my problem. But anyway, we'll get the rest of this installed here. This is where I actually figure out that the threads are stripped, because they would screw in there, but as soon as you put any pressure or pulled on it, it would pull right out. So this is where I discovered that there was an issue here. And so you can see me with my drill bit there tapping that tapping it out for the M7 1.0 threads. I tap it out with that, rethread it, and then continue to install here. Okay, after tapping those bolts and getting some new bolts and reinstalling, I've got them both installed now. You can see both sides are installed, they're painted. Get a good look at them there. That's me pulling on them, I think, and testing them, see how strong they felt. But anyway, they're installed now. They look better. They're protected. They're not all rusty and deteriorating now. And so that gives you a good look at what this part of the what this looks like now. Well, that'll wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching me restore these side kickers on my Polaris. Thanks for watching.